This is TWiT.
We've got an awesome hardware block. I'm super curious to hear from Ron about his time with the Pixel 6. Let's jump in. All right, Ron, you and I both have the 6, and we have now learned that when you have the 6 Pro, and there's so much similarity between these two phones, but there are differences. And so I'm really curious, Ron, to hear about your take about your time with the 6 so far.
So yes, I've been playing with the Pixel 6 since before the announcement, thanks to our friends at Google, and really getting a feel for it. And I got to say, just, TLDR, top line of it, this is a great phone. It's a great phone at an affordable price. And all of I've been reading the other reviews and reading all the kind of commentary on it and things like that. It's not a perfect phone. I'll put it there. And I don't think, and I probably imagine you both would agree that the Pixel 6 Pro isn't perfect either. But when we look at the line of Pixels over the past recent versions, this feels like a new chapter. This feels like a not a fresh start, but a new start or a new kind of new direction. First from the get-go, from the fit and finish and feel of the phone, I'm taking off my my case so I can feel the whole thing. It's heavy. It feels present in your hand. It's, like we were talking about before the break, it does feel big, and that's because I'm coming from a 4A, which is probably on the smaller side. But it did take a second to get kind of like a feel for the length of it. It's a long phone. It reminded me a lot of how the OnePlus 7 Pro, when I was using that for a while, was a long phone, right? And that was a kind of a switch, a change in direction for me there. But once you get the feel for it, it does feel great. I'm not a case person. I don't like to put cases on my phones, but Google did send along this little case, and I've been using it because I will say, especially in comparison to using my Pixel 4a, I would get worried when I was holding it, right? Like, because it's just is all glass. It feels, it feels very, I don't want to say slippery, but you feel the value of it, right? If you put the phone down face down, it does tend to get a bit of an air hockey effect to it. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful with that. That's why actually I like the camera bump, because the camera bump does, and we talked about this last week on the show with Tashaka, right? The camera bump does work as almost a natural grounder on the table when you keep the phone face up. So from a general overall feel, again, like I love the price point of the Pixel 6, but I also feel the value of it. Like if I had spent the money on this, I would feel like, oh, this feels like an upper echelon, kind of a higher end phone, but not breaking the bank in the $1,000 flagship kind of phone kind of realm. Now, as a phone itself, I will caveat a couple of things. I was mainly using it on Wi-Fi because I'm home all the time. I did pop in my SIM and was using it on LTE. I don't have 5G. I didn't hit 5G, so I can't. I know some of the biggest complaints on the Pixel 6 specifically has been the battery life on 5G. So I can't speak to that. Might want to go read other reviews if you're on 5G, if that's a concern. I know there are some issues about the 5G modem and the drain it puts on a battery. But for my use, mainly on Wi-Fi at home, and then the limited time I had an LTE, battery lasted long, held a charge for more than a day. Basically when I test these phones, I just use it till the battery runs down, and then I charge it back up and use it again. And I went quite a long while. I went about, I think, a day and a half before I had to charge it in. We're just using it as my main kind of phone. Jason, one topic I wanted to talk to you about was the in-screen fingerprint scanner.
Yeah.
Because that's another topic that I've seen some people talking about.
Yeah, a lot of feedback on that.
A lot of feedback. I didn't have a ton of problem with the responsiveness of it. And I wonder if that's because I had a phone with an in-screen fingerprint scanner previously. I think it was the OnePlus, the OnePlus 8 maybe, or the 7. So like I was used to that experience. But if you're new to an in-screen fingerprint scanner, the slight kind of pause it takes for it to read your fingerprint might be new to you. It might be a source of frustration. But for me, when you do the fingerprint scan, it is a very bright white light. And
Yes,
when you are in your bedroom in bed with your partner and the lights are out and they are sleeping and you want to check your phone briefly, you light up that room very quickly. And so that was one thing that jumped out at me about the fingerprint scanner. Jason, what has your experience been with it so far?
I mean, and that white light is instrumental to how it scans, right? It's shining a bunch of light onto your finger directly. That's exactly how it works. Yeah, I actually, there's the mystical.
Thanks, Victor.
We've tripped the wire again. Berg! It's so funny. I actually tweeted out earlier because I've noticed a lot of people who I know, like reviewers and stuff who have had plenty of experience with in-display fingerprint sensors, complaining about theirs. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not taking it away from anyone else's experience, but I have noticed in my time with the 6 Pro and then now with the 6 that it's fine for me. I don't know if I just trained it really well or what. Sometimes I feel like it comes down to that. Did you, were you training it while your thumb was sweaty at all? And so that interfered, with the capture a little bit or what? Because I've had plenty of in-display sensors where no matter how I do what I do, it seems like accuracy is 50 or 60%. And that's really annoying, but I'm not experiencing that at all with the 6 and the 6 Pro. I'm probably getting I'd say 95%. It works almost every time for me. And so I don't know what I'm doing differently than everybody else.
The trick for me with fingerprint sensors is you got to put in the time to add in multiple fingerprints. Right. So
of the same finger. So what I do whenever
I'm training the fingerprint is when you set up the phone, you go through and you do different sections of your thumb, stuff like that. Then I go through all that. Then I go back to it and I set up my other thumb, my other finger. Right. So no matter which hand I've got, it will work. Then just for coverage sake, I set up both my index fingers and then I go back and set up my main thumb again. Because I figure, let me just give it as much data as possible, because ideally, the fingerprints are unique to me, right? And they should all be similar. And I want to guess kind of what, more often than not, it's going to be the thumb. So I figured, let me just do it again and give it more data. So that's kind of what my approach has been. I haven't had a problem with misses. For me, it's just the blinding white light. That's all. That has been an issue.
Yeah. What about you, Wen? Because you've got the same phone, same sensor. Yeah. Have you had any issues? And actually, the phone that you had before this, was it a hardware sensor or was it an in-display sensor?
So I actually have my previous actual personal daily driver was the Pixel 5, but for work I have a Samsung S20 Plus, which does have the in-screen fingerprint. And I thought it was a good idea, but I actually hate it. I always end up tapping my PIN on my Samsung. And so when I opened up the Pixel 6 Pro, I was like, oh no. Here we go again. But I've actually really enjoyed it. I had the exact same conversation with my husband when I first started using the Pixel 6 Pro, and he's like, what is that light? I'm like, it's just a fingerprint sensor. Go back to bed. It's fine. But I kind of like it. As long as you manage to kind of cover that light with your thumb, I kind of like the feedback of it, because I think one of my problems with my Samsung in-screen fingerprint detection is that the feedback, the feedback on whether I was doing it or whether you even saw my thumb was a little bit sketchy. I think I've got it, but I don't know. I couldn't tell whether I was holding my thumb incorrectly and it was identifying my thumb, or I just wasn't able to tell that I was doing it at the same time. But I know exactly when my Pixel 6 Pro is trying to read my finger. And I think I definitely put it 85% to 90% of the time that it works. So I'm really happy. I'm very pleasantly surprised, because I have not had this level of accuracy and ease of use with with my one other in-screen fingerprint detection. So I'm jazzed.
Yeah, it's interesting that you compare it to the Samsung one, because they're actually two different technologies. The Samsung one is an ultrasonic, and the one that's in the display of the Pixel 6 is an optical. And the ultrasonic was supposed to be better than the optical. It was actually supposed to be able to, be more accurate, if your fingers are wet or whatever. But I've had, with all the Samsung devices that I've had those fingerprint sensors, I've had nothing but trouble. They're never accurate. And so that by comparison to the Pixel 6, I'm like, well, this is great. Actually, this works really well. Like I can only compare this to, at least in my experience, to what I've had with the OnePlus fingerprint sensor, which I've always thought has been really solid for the most part. Maybe not the first one, but they got to a really great point with theirs where it was fast and solid. And like, that's been my experience with the 6. So I don't know what people are, what they're.
Are you sure, Jason, that you have fingerprints and you're not a clone?
I'm not sure about anything, so that's entirely possible.
I mean, this is all a simulation anyway, so what does it matter?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so fingerprint sensor, I saw the criticism of it. I've had nothing but good results with it, except for that bright white light, but I understand why it's there. It just, we all know the bedroom effect. That's the problem with it. The processor, I really tried to play with the processor and throw things at it. And like I played, some of my games on it and did things like that. I didn't see it tripping up at all. I thought it was working really, really snappy and nice. And I was trying to compare between Pixel 4a in running Android 12 and the Pixel 6 for like the AI improvements and the kind of snappier. And it did feel faster. It felt faster than my 4a, as it should, right? It did feel a little snappier. Those results did feel a little better. So all in all, I like that. Getting into the camera, Victor, I shared a little album of some photos I took the other day. But I think the camera's great. I mean, for me, what's interesting is that I'm on the Pixel 4a. I've been using Android 12 since, I got the update. So I feel like the software side of it, I was familiar with it. It wasn't like, when you get a new phone, you try to figure like, okay, how does the Motorola camera work? Or how does the Samsung camera work? This, I knew how it all worked. So it came down to what was the quality of the photos or how did things look. I tried to do, maximum zoom versus, and the zoom out to go to the kind of telephoto lens or version of it or whatever. And, colors were crisp. Zooms were pretty solid as far as I could tell. All in all, it took nice. And I was trying to do, and I didn't actually put the 1-to-1 pictures I took with the Pixel 4a, but I was trying to take the same picture with the 4a, and the Pixel 6 pictures were clearly better. Those are, the pictures here that you're seeing are our sad little pumpkin that was on our stoop. But but then I went out, had a beautiful sky, and took a picture of the house and the car and stuff like that. And like just the vibrancy. I mean, this was taken at like 11 a.m. right? So like the vibrancy of color there, and the range and the use of shadow and light and stuff like that. I was really impressed by these. Like I took it, like, when you take a photo and then you look at your phone, like, oh wow, that's really pretty good.
Yeah.
So I had several moments of that. In fact, the next picture of the picture I took of the house was just like, honestly, like, I saw these kind of pictures taken with my cousin who had an iPhone 13, and like taking these like majestic kind of photos. I don't feel like I ever took a photo like this with my 4A. So I definitely felt the difference of the camera. So all in all, I got to say Pixel 6 gets a thumbs up for me. I know, Jason, we were doing what we were doing letter scale, right? And you gave the,
we did them all, I think, last week.
We did them all. Yeah. So I would firmly give this phone probably like a solid A. I'm even hard pressed to give it an A-. I'm hesitant not to give it an A+ just for other people's experiences that I read about the battery drain on 5G, and I just can't speak to that. But like 4.5 stars, A. Like this is like if someone comes to me and they said they're looking to get an Android phone, what should they get? I'm telling them to get the Pixel 6. So
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I mean, and you really have to ask yourself, are the features of the 6 Pro enough to warrant the $350 or is it $300 or $350 price increase? If you had to give the 6 Pro a letter grade, what would you get it?
I definitely give it like a solid A. I'm going to maybe an A- because my first 24 hours with it was it's sliding off of everything. Like I put it on my knee, it slides off like my knee. I put it on my laptop, it slides off my laptop. I think that was like the thing I probably said most, like, honey, my phone is my phone. So I think that kind of like the premium material, but the kind of real life usage of that is a little bit weird. I generally try not to use cases these days, but I guess I'm gonna get a case with some freaking Elmer's glue on the back or something.
I'm glad I'm not alone in not using cases. I can't stand cases. I don't want to add more bulk to the phone, right? But
yeah. And especially like the bump. I love the novel design. I feel like I used to be kind of someone who would naysay like, oh, I'm not, or, oh, like this is kind of weird. But I think that the way forward now with smartphones after like 10 years, 12 years of having smartphones in our life is to do weird, interesting things like, okay, let's try this design. So I'm jazzed to see it. I actually do like it too. The phone's so big. I could probably just like hook it. No, probably not. But
it's not enough. It doesn't have enough of a cliff there. Yeah.
Oh, right. Next I just need like a little finger hook. I want it perched on my finger like a little bird. But
you have a great point. It doesn't look like any other phone out there. And I know I'm a broken record with this. Anybody who watches or listens to this show for a while knows that I like phones that look different because they're trying to do something different. And this stands out. If you go to the T-Mobile store and see all the Android phones, they start to look the same. This stands out from the crowd.
Yeah,
absolutely. A-. Nice.
A-. All right. Well, that's pretty congruent with what I gave it last week. The 6 Pro, I think I gave it an A-. Yeah. So, all right. Pretty solid choice there.
Cool.
Excellent stuff. Thank you all for that.